Welcome to the Jacksonville Momcast, a podcast dedicated to real stories for real parents. Each episode, we'll chat with local Jacksonville moms and cover topics to help you navigate mom life on the First Coast. Thanks for joining us as we tackle all things motherhood and more with a focus on the 904. Welcome to episode 4 of the Jacksonville Momcast. Today, we're chatting with Erica Threet. Erica is a Jacksonville mom and a certified pediatric sleep consultant. In this episode, we'll chat with Erica about why sleep is so important for our kids, and she'll share with us a few tips parents can use to help their babies get the sleep they need to grow. Thanks for listening. So today we're welcoming Erica Threet. Erica is a certified pediatric sleep consultant. And Erica, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. I graduated from the University of Florida, and I have a master's degree in early childhood education. I was a teacher for 10 years, and then I had my first baby, and I became a stay-at-home mom. And with my first baby, I read everything that I could get my hands on to figure out how to get him to sleep, because being exhausted and having a baby that didn't sleep was not an option for me and my family. So I read it all. I researched everything I could, and my oldest was sleeping through the night by 7 weeks old. I then had my second baby 3 years later, and as all second babies do, you think you have it figured out, and they throw a curveball at you. And I had to do some more problem solving. I had to do some more thinking. I had to do some more reading, and just educating myself on infant sleep even more. And he was sleeping by 12 weeks. So out of all of this became a passion to help other moms get the rest and the sleep that they deserve. So many families and moms especially walk around wearing being tired as a badge of honor. And just because you're a mom doesn't mean that you have to be tired. You have the right to be rested. You deserve to be rested. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to have energy. You deserve to have time to go out with your girlfriends at night, or to spend an evening out, or even at home on the couch with your husband. And so I just developed this passion for infant sleep and helping other moms. And so I joined the Sleepwise team, where I have the opportunity to work with families here in the Jacksonville area and all over the country to get the rest that they deserve and get their baby sleeping.
Fantastic. So what exactly does a certified pediatric sleep consultant do?
So in short, I teach babies how to sleep independently. That's the short version of what I do. But really, it's a complicated process. So we all have a journey to sleep that we go through. A is being wide awake. B is being completely asleep. Now, if something external is in the middle of your journey to sleep, from going from wide awake to being asleep, if something external is there, then when your baby wakes up in the middle of the night, like they all naturally do as we transition through sleep cycles, your baby is going to need that external thing, whatever it is, to go back to sleep in the middle of the night. So what I do is I work with families to get their baby to sleep on their own, 100% on their own, with nothing external. So that way then when they naturally wake up in the middle of the night, they're able to roll over, get themselves in a comfy position, and put themselves right back to sleep without needing that external thing. A lot of the external props, that, as we call them, are things that babies rely on to fall asleep, include things like breastfeeding or feeding on the bottle. It includes a pacifier, rocking to sleep, holding to sleep, using like the Magic Merlin sleep sack or a weighted sleep sack or the snoo, any of those gimmicks or little things that we hear about and ways that we put our babies to sleep. Really what it does is it's kind of like a short-term, like little bit of a Band-Aid, but eventually your baby is not going to know how to put themselves back to sleep because they're relying on that external thing. And until you completely remove everything external and the baby falls asleep in their crib on their own, your baby's not going to be able to sleep through the night. Baby outgrows blank. Then what do you do? I work with so many families who use, the new hot thing going around right now is this device called the snoo. So many parents swear by the snoo because it like straps the baby in and it gives a little bit of vibration. And so for the first 3 months of the baby's life, when they can safely fit into the snoo, they're sleeping great. But then the moment that they outgrow the snoo and they have to go into their crib, the baby doesn't know how to sleep without that movement. And they don't know how to sleep with the freedom that comes with sleeping in a crib.
And so why is sleep so important? You hear about it as a new mom. Everybody asks, how is the baby sleeping? Does he take naps? Will she sleep through the night? Why is that? Why is sleep so important, especially for kids?
So there's so much research about why sleep is important for kids. The big thing to remember is that babies grow when they sleep. Growth hormones are secreted during periods of deep sleep, and babies spend about 50% of their time sleeping in order for healthy growth. Anytime I work with a family, we definitely see a growth spurt in our second week together because the baby is now getting really, really good sleep. Sleep also helps prevent obesity because babies are learning how to fall asleep on their own and they're not relying on being fed to go back to sleep. So a lot of times when these babies are waking up in the middle of the night and mom has to feed them, they don't necessarily need the calories. They're just feeding because they're looking for comfort. So that's a whole bunch of extra calories that baby's getting during the night that they don't need. And especially right now in our time, it's so important that sleep helps to boost the immune system. When we sleep, our bodies produce infection and stress fighting proteins. And the less we sleep, the less our body produces of these. So being rested and having good sleep is going to also help keep you and your baby healthy. Rested babies are also less injury prone. You can think about your baby, especially a toddler who is so tired, they get clumsy and they fall all over the place. So if your baby is rested, especially your toddler, they're less likely to fall down and get hurt because they're tired and clumsy. The last one is that sleep helps babies learn. There's been research that shows that babies have an increased creativity and cognitive ability when they get the sleep that they need.
And even as a new mom, more sleep obviously helps you function better and helps you be less injury prone, I guess would be a big one.
Yes. And I mean, as a rested parent, you're more alert, you're more productive, you feel good, you're able to attend to your baby, you're able to attend to yourself. It helps you stay fit. It helps you stay healthy. It helps you be the best version of yourself that you can absolutely be.
Absolutely. So what are some tips you have for new parents to foster good habits early before we get into some bad habits? And we'll talk about bad habits next. But what are some things right off the bat when you bring baby home from the hospital that you can do to kind of get them on the road to healthy sleep?
Yeah, that's what we do. We work with our infants, our newborns, from day one to promote healthy sleep habits. So the biggest thing is creating an eat, play, sleep cycle where your baby eats, they play, and then they go to sleep. And you are going to repeat that schedule, that routine throughout the entire day. So your baby's going to eat, they're going to play or have like a little period of wakefulness, and they're going to sleep. As a newborn, their amount of time that they can be awake, their playtime is really, really limited. But that awake time includes feeding. It also includes changing the diaper and, the little things that we do with them. As your baby gets older and they can handle more awake time, there will be some playing in there. But by having an eat, play, sleep routine established, what that does is it prevents your baby from becoming reliant on feeding in order to go to sleep. And that is a big, big, big benefit of the eat, play, sleep cycle. The other thing that you can work on doing is work to put your baby down wide awake every time. So your job, your goal should be to get your baby in their crib on their own, wide, wide, wide awake. There's so many people out there that say, oh, it's okay to get your baby drowsy but awake, or I'm going to rock my baby to sleep and then transfer them to the crib. But all of those things become external props. And as we said earlier, anytime your baby relies on an external prop to put themselves to sleep, they need that same thing when they wake up in the middle of the night. So by putting your baby down wide, wide awake at bedtime, They are learning how to fall asleep on their own and be able to put themselves back to sleep on their own.
So let's talk about a hot topic. Let's talk about crying.
Yes.
Nobody likes it at all, but essentially sometimes it's a little bit of a necessity. So what are your views on crying? Talk about it, how it plays into getting to that healthy sleep.
So yes, crying. So the first thing to know is that I would never want somebody to tell me to leave my baby unattended and not respond to them if they were crying. So I'm never going to ask a family to do that. Now, the thing that we need to remember is that crying is a baby's way of communicating. So as we are working through teaching our babies a new way to fall asleep and teaching them their independent sleep skills, there will be some crying there because your baby is letting you know that they're confused. You're asking them to do something that they don't know how to do yet, and they're tired and they're like, why can't you just feed me? Or why can't you just rock me? So what we do is you are there to support your baby the entire time they are learning this new skill. There will be some crying, but how it works is when you are 100% consistent with the way that you respond to your baby during this process of learning independent sleep skills, the crying is reduced significantly because your baby learns what's expected. They learn how to fall asleep, and they know that every single time I go to bed, this is what I can expect.
So let's talk about bad habits and older kids. Now, I know we talked about babies and working with parents when they bring home a newborn. First of all, do you work with older kids? And then what are some things parents can do if they have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old who's maybe developed some of those bad habits when it comes to a bedtime routine so that they can rein it in and really get their kids the sleep they need?
So yes, I work with children up to age 10. I mostly work with toddlers though, at the age of like 2.5 to 3 years old. And the biggest problem that I get from parents is that they have to lay with their baby or their toddler at night in order for them to go to sleep. And then their toddler wakes up and mom and dad aren't there. So then the toddler gets out of bed, they go find mom and dad, and then mom or dad has to go and sleep in the bed with them to get them to go back to sleep. So now mom and dad are not sleeping in their own bed. And once again, they're not getting the rest that they deserve. So the biggest thing is being really, really consistent. Again, toddlers see everything in black and white, and they are going to test, and push to see what they can get away with. It really only takes 1 to 3 times of you laying in bed with your toddler at night in order for it to become a prop and then something that your baby and your toddler is going to rely on every single night to happen. I always call my toddlers babies anyways, by the way, because they're still babies.
They really are.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about naps.
Yes.
Why are naps important? And what is your strategy to work with parents as far as getting kids to take healthy naps? And about what age do kids transition out of naps?
So naps are really important for a couple of reasons. One, because based on your little one's age, they need a certain amount of sleep in a 24-hour period, and that's just not going to be achieved overnight. So naps really do help get those extra hours of sleep that your little one needs in order to grow and stay healthy and for all that creativity and brain development. As your baby gets older, the amount of time that they need, total amount of sleep in a 24-hour period, that decreases to about 12 to 15 hours of overnight sleep, and even until about 10 to 12 hours as they hit that 4 or 5-year-old range. So naps will help to get those extra hours of sleep in, but naps also bridge the gap so that your baby can make it to bedtime so that they really can get those good 10 to 12 hours of restorative sleep that they need.
What age do kids usually give up their nap?
So the earliest that a child really would give up their nap is going to be about 2.5 years old. But really and truly, your little one may still take a nap until about 4. My oldest dropped his nap at 3.5. My little one dropped his nap at 2.5. It really just depends on the child. A lot of families will say, oh, my 2-year-old just stopped napping, so we're just going to, give up the nap. My advice to them is to stick with the nap. Really, at 2 years old, a 2-year-old still needs a nap. There's a lot of things developmentally happening at 2 years old that may prevent your 2-year-old from taking a nap, just because there's a lot of learning going on and their brain's on overdrive, so they may not be able to relax as much during the day. But as long as you stick with a nap and you put your child down for nap time every single time, there's a really good chance that that nap will just kind of pick back up and you can extend it.
And do you have any tips for that transition period? I know when my oldest was giving up his nap, we still had mandatory quiet time just because I had a new baby and I needed it. And then a lot of times he would fall asleep anyways, because it's more of a pushback than it is an actual, he doesn't need the nap. He just now has opinions about the nap. So any advice for parents in that transition period?
Yes. So it's really, really important, like I said, to always put your toddler down for quiet time, because they may fall asleep just like yours did. But that quiet time is also enough to kind of recharge them and get them to bedtime, because we all know there is nothing worse than an overtired, cranky toddler screaming at you all night long. There's nothing fun about it, and there's nothing worse. So that quiet time also just resets them and lets them get to bedtime. Another tip for this is that as you are making that transition to no nap, it's really important to push your bedtime super early as they are first making that transition. When I say super early, I'm talking like 6:30. As their body adjusts to not having a nap, you can definitely push bedtime back a little bit later, but you're still going to do an earlier bedtime with them not taking a nap than you did when they took a nap. So for example, with my little one, when he was transitioning from taking a nap to not taking a nap, kind of in that like gray period a little bit, on the days that he would take a nap, that bedtime would be 8:30 that night. On the days that he didn't take a nap, bedtime was at 6, and then it was 6:30. And then we eventually got it to 7. And now he's consistently not taking naps, so he's consistently in bed at 7.
I used to love those early bedtimes.
They're the best. They are the best. There's days where I cross my fingers and I'm like, please don't take a nap. Please don't take a nap.
Okay, well, let's talk about back to school. Maybe, we're all kind of hoping they go back to school at some point. It's been, I know for a lot of families through this time, it's kind of been just shenanigans with quarantining and homeschooling and not really having a set schedule and not really having to get up to leave the house. So for those of us that have been off a sleep schedule for the last couple of months, what are some tips you have as we lead up into August to kind of, rein it back in and get kids prepared to re-enter school?
Yeah, this is going to be so hard for all of us, for sure, definitely. So the biggest thing that I would say to do right now is to start getting your child on a schedule, regardless of their age. They need to start getting on a schedule where they have a consistent wake time in the morning and a consistent bedtime at night. I know right now it's summertime. We haven't been in school for so long. Like bedtimes are getting pushed later and later and later because we can sleep in and it doesn't matter. But what you guys need to do is I want you to kind of think about what time your child needs to wake up in the morning in order to get to school on time. And then kind of go back and think about how much sleep your child actually needs. Do they need 10 hours? Do they need 12 hours? Are they a 13-hour sleeper? When we think about elementary school and we think about school-age kids, they really need about 10 to 12 hours of overnight sleep. Some kids need more, some kids need less. My oldest, he's about an 11-hour sleeper, sometimes a 12-hour sleeper, anywhere from there. So you're going to look at what time he needs to wake up in the morning, and I would say that's going to be about 7. And I'm going to go back knowing that he needs 12 hours. So I'm going to put him down in his bed at bedtime at 7 at night so that I can make sure that he gets that amount of sleep that he needs overnight.
Perfect. It's a lot easier said than done.
Absolutely.
So If someone was looking to hire a sleep consultant, what type of questions would they have for you? Walk us through a little bit how that works. At what point do you come in to work with families? And what are some things parents should ask when they're looking to hire a sleep consultant?
So there are a lot of sleep consultants out there, and everybody does everything a little bit differently. And, there's some that give you online courses. There's some that kind of give you a consultation and a plan and you're on your own. There's all different things out there, all different kinds of sleep consultants. But I can speak for what I do. One of the things that makes me different is the level of support that I give and I provide my families. I always like to tell my families that they are their baby's cheerleader and support system through all of this, and that I am theirs, that I am cheering them on and I'm supporting them throughout the process. I am with the family the entire 2 or 3 weeks that we work together. If it's an infant, we're together for 2 weeks. If it's a toddler, we're together for 3 weeks, and I am there with you every step of the way. We've got different packages and different plans based on the type of support that you think you're going to need. So some is, immediate, where I'm with you on video overnight, locally into the Jacksonville area. Like I can come to your home and I can help you with things. If you're not in the Jacksonville area, it's, done on FaceTime or texting support. So it's just the level of support. And I think you just have to find somebody that you feel good about, who's going to give you the support that you need. I have some families that come to me and say, just tell me what to do. I'll touch base with you throughout our plan, and that's fine. And I have others that say, I can't do this on my own and I'm going to need you. And they are texting me for 2 weeks throughout the entire process because that's the level of support that they need.
That's great. Okay, so for our last question for today, before we go, tell us what's the biggest myth people have or have heard about hiring a sleep consultant?
Oh, the biggest myth is definitely crying. So many people think that sleep training equals cry it out. And as we talked about before, that is definitely a misconception. There are some methods, extinction is the method, that does require you to have your baby cried out. That is not the method I use. So going back to your previous question on what should a family ask, what kind of questions, you definitely need to ask about crying and what type of crying is involved, because it has to be something that you're comfortable with. When I work with my families, I create a customized sleep plan for them. And we get on the phone and we talk about that sleep plan. And I make sure that the family is comfortable with every single method and every single thing that we're going to do, because if they're not comfortable with it, and if you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to implement it.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing with us all these tips and tricks and a little bit about sleep, which is so important. People want to find you. We'll put a link in the show notes. I know your Instagram is full of great tips and tons of information about sleep. And then I know you also offer a 15-minute consultation, correct?
Yeah, so it's a 15-minute call. If you've got questions about your little one's sleep, like we can chat and we can talk about, maybe it's something that is really a quick fix that I can just give you a tip and it solves your problems. But more often than not, it's just a way to kind of talk about what it would look like to work together and how I can help you get the sleep that you deserve.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Jacksonville Momcast. For more information about what you've just heard, check out our show notes and find us on Instagram at Jacksonville Momcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and know someone who should tune in, please subscribe and share it. We look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Jacksonville Momcast.